to now actively attacking parents and critics as we do. There's a marked strategic shift from these groups, right?
Returning to the summer of 1976. That group, by the way, Kim, was a group known as Starbuck. Moonlight Feels Right. My friends, one of the most consistently popular segments, I think perhaps one of the segments that we've had on Delmarva Live, which has meant a lot to this community, is the next segment. It's on once a month. It's always on when we're here at Kim Benton State Farm. It is our child support enforcement segment. Ted Myrmikos, the director of the Division of Child Support Services, is with us every month. Ted's technically on vacation, but he's coming in to be available to talk to us about what's happening in child support services. And believe it or not, there's quite a bit happening in child support services, as you know. There are all sorts of issues with the pandemic. Ted is constantly getting emails from yours truly. And the reason that he is, there is actually a link, an email link on the Division of Child Support Services website. They get right to WGMD. They send us an email. Can you help us get in touch with the division? I send that email immediately off to Ted. Ted puts on his troubleshooter hat and gets right to it. Right, Ted?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, this segment really, Jake, is something that I love to do, and that's why, that's why I'm here today, because I love reaching out to the community and talking to them about the services we have at the Child Support Office. And what we talk about all the time, custodial parents are important. Obviously, they're important, but reaching out to non-custodial parents about the child support process here in Delaware is so important to me, because they oftentimes feel like they're cut out of this process, and they're the ones that are obligated to pay the child support.
And yet you've been able to touch base with a lot of those people who have felt the very same way, Ted. And maybe, perhaps, the best thing that can happen is they don't feel that they're isolated and no one's listening to them. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's the most important thing of this process. Is if you're a non-custodial parent, being felt like you're included in the process, being a part of the process, and building a relationship with your child. That's the most important thing to us, and that's why coming and talking to the community and really talking about what we can do as a child support agency to help non-custodial parents in the process. That's super important. Super important.
Our guest, as usual, here at Kim Benton State Farm is Ted Myrmikos, the director of the Division of Child Support Services. We'll take your calls. Ted will take your calls at 302-945-9292, 800-518-9292 if you're listening via the stream, and pound 927. That's a free call, compliments of your Verizon wireless cell phone. Now, as I mentioned, I get a pretty regular stream of emails from those who need help from Ted and his department. Probably the most unusual one that we've ever received happened over the weekend, and I sent it to Ted, and it happened to do with someone who was denied access to a military installation because of a child support issue. And without naming names, we're going to talk about that situation because there are all sorts of unusual circumstances that happen. But we'll talk to Ted about that, and we'll take your phone calls as well at 945-9292 after this. You're listening to the award-winning Delmarva Live. Delmarva's anchorman, Jake Smith. I'm putting this where the mark is, certainly. You keep lowering it. We got to move the mark, I guess. Oh, my goodness. Broadcasting live from Kim Benton State Farm. Our special guest, our good friend, Ted Myrmikos, the director of the Division of Child Support Services. Now, Ted, I'm sure when I sent you the email over the weekend about someone who was denied access to a military base, we're not going to say which one, but it was just someone was denied access because something came up when they were doing, I guess, a quick background check with respect to child support. Never heard of such a thing. I know you probably didn't either. Tell us what you thought when you first saw that email, and what was the issue?
Yeah, I mean, Jake, to be honest with you, I was very confused by what I was reading, because I've never heard of that before. I've never heard of an individual being denied access to a military installation because of a child support situation. The first thing that came to my mind was, we have a passport denial program, and maybe somehow, that's tied into the State Department. and maybe
Okay.
somehow.
All right. So they might share databases and that kind of thing. But
Yeah, I mean,
man, that was when I saw that. I'm like, I've never heard of anything like that before.
yeah. So I mean, I immediately first looked to see if we had a case for this individual, and we didn't have a case. I mean, there was no case numbers coming up. I actually went to my executive assistant and said, "You also do a search and see to make sure I didn't err," and she couldn't find a case either. So I responded back to him, letting him know that I would need a little bit more information about what the military installation was saying, and I would try to help him out, if he was able to give me some more information. I haven't heard back from him, and I'm hoping that he did get his issue resolved. From time to time, we do have, federal probation officers coming in to verify certain information. If someone's trying to be employed by the federal government,
background check
type of stuff, and if they have the proper releases, we are authorized to give that information. But yeah, I don't know in this particular person's, but I was totally surprised and didn't know exactly.
Well, that would make two of us, because I was surprised. If you were surprised, I was obviously floored by something like that.
Yeah, that's something we don't do, and I've never heard of that before.
302-945-9292. Ted Merbigos, the director of the Division of Child Support Services, is here to answer your questions. 302-945-9292, 800-518-9292, and pound 927. That's a free call. Compliments of Verizon Wireless on your Verizon Wireless cell phone. Now, the time of year that we're in right now is the toughest time of the year for Ted and his department. Ted, tell us why.
Yeah, I mean, and it's actually started maybe about a month or so ago, once kids start going back to school, and now they're physically back in the schools, right through the end of the year, through the holidays. This definitely is a high stressful time for custodial parents in the state of Delaware who are working hard to find ways to provide their children with the necessities for the school year, for the Christmas season, the holiday seasons that are approaching. So we do get an influx of people calling about their child support situations, and I think I mentioned this last month too. The time is now. If you're not getting child support and you're worried about the upcoming holiday season or how you're going to provide your children with school supplies, because school's just started, the time is now to get a hold of us and let us take a look at your particular situation.
Let's go to our first phone call for Ted Merbigos, the director of the Division of Child Support Services. Good morning. Welcome to Delmarva Live on the Lewis Meineke Doing Car Care Right Talk line. You're on the air with Ted. Oh, sounds like they dropped off. All right. Well, Ted, continue.
So I mean, we are working really hard, and it's really kind of, there's things that we can do, and we're doing, the computer system is doing things on its own without human intervention, submitting non-custodial parents to specific enforcement tools. But if there is a situation that involves generating a contempt petition with the family court for non-payment, that takes time. Research has to be...
Courts don't move very swiftly, Ted, do they?
Well, yeah, and I mean, there's that.
Anything.
And there's work that has to be done by the child support specialist to verify certain pieces of information in order for us to generate a contempt petition. It does take time to do that and to thoroughly investigate the situation. One of the things I tell our child support specialists, the first thing that they should be doing, Jake, is calling the non-custodial parent. If we have a phone number, if we have an email address, and we're actively collecting those pieces of information, reach out to the non-custodial parent. He or she would like to hear from us, I think, to say, before we generate a contempt petition with the family court, what's your situation? Are you working? Are you disabled? And
I think that's so important, Ted, because the human aspect of it, I think, can be forgotten sometimes, which really puts people, I think, on the defensive almost immediately, doesn't it?
It does. And what we try to tell, especially new workers or new employees of the division, is the best thing you can do, and we used to kind of kid about it a little bit, is about getting back to basics. Pick up that telephone call. Have a conversation with the non-custodial parent. Show them a little bit of empathy and a little bit of your
what's your situation? What's going on with you? This is what's happening right now in the system.
Yeah. And sometimes, we get information from those non-custodial parents that sheds light on a particular situation. And that can be then used to provide them with other tools to get employment or to talk to the Department of Labor and see what they have to offer you as far as employment and training, unemployment benefits, that kind of thing. So it definitely goes a long way.
302-945-9292, 800-518-9292, pound 927. That's a free call. Compliments of Verizon Wireless on your Verizon Wireless cell phone. If you have a question, a comment, a problem for Ted Myrmagos, the Director of the Division of Child Support Services. Ted is here to answer your questions. Now, Ted, you've obviously got quite a few emails from me. When we come back, let's talk about not specific emails, but generally what the issues are and what generally happens when you get, because I see there are men that do contact you through, they come through the station, they send me an email, can you please help me out with this? But they're more often than not custodial parents who have issues. So let's talk about that when we come back on Delmarva Live, 92.7 WGMD. Marine weather coming your way. We've got a Fox Business Report as well. You're listening to Delmarva Live on 92.7 WGMD. Our guest is Ted Myrmagos, you are the director, right? I had to look at my notes. The director of the Division of Child Support Services. Ted is with us the third Wednesday of every month. If you have a question for Ted with respect to child support, you can give Ted a call right now, 945-9292, 800-518-9292, or pound 927 on your Verizon Wireless cell phone. Ted, what is the common theme to most of the emails that I forward on to you with those who are in need of assistance from your office?
Well, and I think a majority of them, Jake, are, not a custodial parent who's not receiving child support. And, from time to time, there are, concerns about how their cases are being processed, which, those things like we've talked about, I like to see that because I like to go into the case and see if the caseworker or the child support specialist is actually processing the case like they're supposed to be. And, I sometimes have to tell the custodial parent that, no, the worker is doing everything that they're supposed to do and taking the steps that they're to take in order to try to get child support from the non-custodial parent. And then there's times where, maybe I do need to talk to the supervisor a little bit about how the case is being processed and steps that need to be taken. We look at that as a training opportunity for our staff and trying to help them understand the child support process. One of the most recent emails that I got from you was something that, happens when the custodial parent is the biological father.
Right.
And, I've seen situations where the custodial parent being the male sometimes catches our caseworkers and sometimes me off guard, and we have to pay special attention to that because we want to make sure, whether it's the biological father or the biological mother, that we're treating everybody fairly.
And men are sensitive about that.
Absolutely,
men
are
sensitive about
and
that.
And I've made that mistake, and where I've seen it happen where a male custodial parent was at family court and was started to be treated as the non-custodial parent, and has gotten, rightfully so, upset about that. So we did have recently a custodial parent who was the biological father, and and this happens from time to time too, questioning, I'm not getting the same services I would have gotten
if I was a woman. Right.
And, we want to make sure that they're being treated fairly. And I know that, to me, when I see custodial parents who are grandparents, who are guardians,
it happens
who
today,
are,
right?
Who are biological fathers, I want to make sure that they are receiving the same.
Is that a training issue for your department, do you think?
It is a training opportunity because so many of our custodial parents are women, but we have to be cognizant of the fact that, hey, there are biological fathers who are our custodial parents.
And grandparents.
And, to me, grandparents and guardians, I think we need to treat them, on a special level because they're taking on responsibilities of children who are not necessarily theirs,
Understood.
And, it could be a situation where the biological parent has a drug addiction and the kids had to be moved around,
Right. Yep.
We need to be aware.
For their own safety.
For their own safety.
Yep.
We need to be aware of that and really take those cases and look at those cases carefully and make sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to do.
302-945-9292 is our number here on Delmarva Live. Ted Myrmagos, the Director of the Division of Child Support Service, is with us as he is every third Wednesday here at Kim Benton State Farm. 302-945-9292, 800-518-9292 if you're listening via the stream, and pound 927 if you have a Verizon Wireless cell phone. It's a free call, compliments of Verizon Wireless. Christmas is coming, and that is going to present a number of problems to Ted and his department. We'll talk about that with Ted in just a moment here on the Talk of Delmarva, 92.7 WGMD. Let's check our latest TrueCast, shall we? You're listening to Delmarva Live on 92.7 WGMD. Jake Smith, Ted Murrigos, the Director of the Division of Child Support Services here in the First State, 302-945-9292. Ted, this time of year is always tugs at the heartstrings because this is when I guess you get more and more requests from custodial parents, right?
Right. I mean, the call volume at our child support offices increases dramatically around this time of year. The number of folks that want to come and visit and actually talk about their child support cases in our offices increase this time of year. It's just this time of year really, it can be heartbreaking, Jake, because we want to see people have the best holiday season that they possibly can, and our employees, they do take it seriously and want to make sure the children are being cared for financially, emotionally, that their medical coverage is there, through Medicaid or through a private insurance carrier. That's one part of our child support responsibilities is to make sure children in Delaware have medical coverage if it's supplied at a reasonable cost by an employer, or if it can be through a referral through our Division of Social Services in the Medicaid department. We want to make sure that medical coverage and people have the financial means to take care of their needs, not only around this time of year, but all year, and that non-custodial parents step up and do what their responsibilities are.
Now, obviously the next big holiday, you've got Halloween coming up, then it's Thanksgiving, and then it's Christmas. But your calls go up. What if a custodial parent is calling you? Does that ramp up your efforts to try to collect the money this time of year, Ted? Or I mean, what happens?
Yeah, I mean, usually it's like we were talking about a little earlier with we make sure when a custodial parent is saying, look, I'm not receiving child support payments and I need some help before the holidays, our child support specialist looks to see. First, like I recommend, we should be calling the non-custodial parent, finding out what their situation is.
Right.
But, it's finding out through our locate tools. We have direct interfaces with both state and federal agencies about employment. Is the non-custodial parent employed? We get information received directly into our child support system. And our wage withholdings are sent to employers automatically. They're not does not require human intervention. So if a custodial parent says, hey, he's working, and this is the name of the employer, we find out, we look into our system, did a wage withholding go to that employer? If it did, why aren't they sending in child support payments like they're supposed to? Should we call that employer, find out, is he still or she still employed there? If they are, find out why they're not sending in payments, making a deduction to the child support. So, there's things that we can do to verify employment opportunities, and verify whether is the non-custodial parent disabled. Are they receiving benefits from the Social Security Administration? Should we be attaching those benefits? So there's some investigating that goes in.
And again, what about unemployment? I know that the federal unemployment, I guess, is going to be cut soon if it's not already cut. What is the situation with withholding federal unemployment from those who owe child support?
Yeah, from the federal, the most recent increase in federal unemployment benefits, we were not able to attach those in the legislation that came out of the federal government. But if someone is collecting state unemployment, that is a slam dunk for the child support program. We have an automatic interface with the Department of Labor, the unemployment office, and if we have a court order in our child support system, we will automatically deduct and automatically receive from the unemployment office child support.
If you are a custodial parent or non-custodial parent, also from time to time, and if you're in the system right now and you're making payments or you're getting payments, make sure that the Division of Child Support Services has your updated contact information. And you might say, well, I don't want them having my contact information. I don't want them knowing where they are. Well, there are negatives to them not knowing where you are. And in one case, Ted presented a very large check to someone who they were trying to reach for a long time. Check,
Right.
that was a big check. I mean,
Yeah.
the non-custodial parent was making the payments. The custodial parent, you couldn't find them to give them the money. That's really what it comes down to.
And
right?
that was a result of an email through you, Jake.
That's
you know,
right,
she wanted, her email was about enforcement activity. Why isn't my case being enforced?
Right.
And I was
It
so
had nothing to do with the fact that the person wasn't paying that owed
Yep.
the money. It
Yep.
was the fact that you didn't know where she was.
That's right. It brings a smile to my face even today, because it was like I looked at the case on a weekend and going, I got the email. I looked at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was $9,200
Yeah,
there.
almost $10,000.
Yeah, and she came right in, and I was able to hand her the check, and you know, and Jake, for both non-custodial and custodial parents, it's so important, because there's times where we're refunding money to the non-custodial parent, and that goes out by check. So we have to know where non-custodial parents are living, so that we can, in those cases where we have to refund a payment, it's going to get to them. So it's important for us to know contact information. And, you know, we are going to be instituting a new, what we're calling a proactive client notification system. And it goes by having a cell phone number so we can send text messages. It goes by email
And what happens
addresses.
if the person changes their cell phone number?
Right, we need to know that.
Yeah,
we need to know
that's
all
what I'm saying.
contact.
It's really
Yeah.
important. If you change that piece of information, you
Yep.
move, change your phone number,
Yep. But our
cell phone.
But our proactive client notification system is going to be something we initiate with our custodial and non-custodial parents. You have a court hearing coming up, we'll notify you. Hey, be reminded, you have a court hearing, on this date and this
Because if
time.
you miss it, there might be a warrant out for your arrest.
That's right. There will be. And so we need contact information from both parties so that we can link up, make sure the payments are going into the right place, so that we can send notification if we're going to suspend your driver's license, if we're going to deny you a passport. All of those administrative functions, by law, the Child Support Agency is required to notify you. And before we take that action. And, you know, the reoccurring theme, Jake, that you and I talk about is, if you get a letter from us, if you get a call and we leave a voicemail message, don't ignore it. Call us, because we want to work with you first before we suspend your license, before we deny you a passport.
And Ted, I think that's probably the one issue that men are hesitant, because they just think that they're not going to be treated fairly. They are the ones that are the hunted. And you've already said you try not to do that. It might happen inadvertently, but don't let something sit. Don't let something fester, because that's when things get out of hand.
That's right.
You will work with them and do the best you can, but you need to know what their situation is, right?
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why we changed our division's name in 2015 to the Division of Child Support Services, is because we are a service-oriented agency, and we want to provide a service. If you're a non-custodial parent in the state of Delaware, you have a right to receive services by the Division of Child Support, and we want to provide those and provide you with the help that we can.
Agreed.
Yep.
And I just don't want to. And I know what I felt like when I was making child support payments and so forth. But the bottom line, Ted, is all men, I think, are asking is to be recognized. And for those who don't pay, Ted, I have absolutely no respect for them whatsoever. They have children. They have the responsibility. It's not fair that the taxpayers have to make up for that, and it's not fair the children have to do without.
And one of the first things we do, Jake, before even a court order is established for someone to pay child support, is to establish paternity, to make sure that you're the biological parent. And there's times where mom believes that this person is the biological parent.
Turns out not to be the case.
Not to be the case. Through genetic testing. So no order is going to be established in the state of Delaware without paternity being established, to make sure mom is known and dad is known. And then the courts will, take steps to create a court order based on income. So, one of the other things too, it's like if you go to court and you don't bring your financial information, you don't want the courts to impute income. And that's where they say, look at a big book. This is what the labor market says a construction worker gets paid for in the state of Delaware.
Yeah, don't take chances. Bring your records with you. Ted, we will see you again next month. I'll continue forwarding on all those emails again, and there's plenty of them. And obviously, we're getting fewer phone calls because people are emailing.
That's right.
now.
That's right.
But the bottom line is people are being helped. They are getting the prompt assistance, and you are acting as the troubleshooter, and that's really, I guess, that's what you're looking for, right?
Absolutely. And I'll leave everybody with this. It's important, as we mentioned, to leave us your email address. When you call the child support office, leave us your email address, leave us a cell phone number so that we can start reaching out to you in more ways than one. And we want to help you if you're not on track, get on track. And if you need help keeping on track, we want to help you do that.
And if you change that email address, please let Ted's office know about it. Ted Murmagos, the director of the Division of Child Support Services. Ted, great to see you, my friend.
Great to see you too, man.
And thanks for coming in on your vacation to speak with our listeners. You're listening to Delmarva Live on 92.7 WGMD, WGMD.com, and via your WGMD app.